And now, cutting through your typical media nonsense and offering you a rational and unbiased perspective on current events and life in Tampa Bay. He's a successful entrepreneur, published author, top listing agent, a real estate and finance expert that goes to bat for you every day as a consumer advocate. Your host and the consumer quarterback, Brandon Reynolds.
And yes, here we come again. Consumer Quarterback Show, helping you win in any marketplace. Always, it's that consumer advocate approach to life, helping you become a more informed consumer and avoid a lot of the commission-based advice that is so prevalent out there in our community. Got a great lineup for you today. Shane Socash going to be on the program. He's the owner of David Reynolds Jewelry and Coin. We always talk about alternative investment opportunities, precious metals, and Brandon Faust, Mold Solutions USA, that is, moldsolutionsusa.com, going to be on the program, and attorney Melissa Champagne from the FCM Law Group, fcmlaw.com. And we're talking about real estate. There's a lot of fraud in real estate, a lot of kind of nefarious activity happening when it comes to straw buyers and faking deeds and things for folks to look out for out there. And we got a feel-good story of the day. Our feel-good story is always a good one. It's entertaining as well as something that's a positive injection into your day. Off-duty Pinellas deputy rescues 2 kids from a rip current right here in Pinellas County. And that's over at Anclote Key. This segment's brought to you by Discovery Golf Cars, the official golf cart provider for the Consumer Quarterback Show. Longtime friends of the program. You can check them out at discoverygolfcars.com. Let them know the real estate quarterback sent you. Talk to Ethan Luster if you're over in Clearwater. And if you're over at the Tampa location, talk to Marty. But they've got the Easy Go, the Star EV, Cushman. They offer new and pre-owned. You can rent or buy. And they offer financing and mobile repair. So check them out, Tampa, Clearwater locations, or online at discoverygolfcars.com. Let them know the real estate quarterback sent you. All right, we always like to feature our real estate listings here on the program. My wife, Lindsay, and I own and operate a top 100 ranked real estate team here in Tampa Bay. And we do some co-brokering, meaning out of state as well. So we've got a $10 million listing in North Carolina. This one's 530 Heaton Forest Drive, 20-acre estate, 8,000 square foot home, beautiful property in the mountains of western North Carolina. 530 Heaton Forest Road, Cashiers, North Carolina. Compliments of Bill DeVore team, real estate group with Keller Williams Realty. 20-acre estate, beautiful, magnificent country estate in the mountains of western North Carolina. So if you know anybody looking for that beautiful second home, and it's got an equestrian style to it as well, horses, and you've got the stables as well, 4 fireplaces throughout the home for those cool mountain evenings, and attached 2-car garage, 2-car carport, expansive stone driveway, and a guest house that has 3 bedrooms and a sitting room. Just a gorgeous property. 530 Heaton Forest Road, Cashiers, North Carolina. And you can see all of our real estate listings at platinummvpteam.kw.com.
This is God's country.
All right. So we've got attorney Melissa Champagne in. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
My pleasure. And yeah, so the real estate is kind of an interesting, talking point right now, just because of the way the market shifted. It was so hot so long, and then, now things are starting to kind of normalize and equalize and all those, acronyms and metaphors for a shifting market. So we're in that shifting market, but there's always fraud prevalent. There's a certain level of fraud, and you're noticing that on your end as well with some of the properties that you were mentioning.
I have, yeah. I mean, there's always been, some fraudulent activity, but it's really seemed to have picked up lately. We're getting notices from our title underwriter, Old Republic, on a daily basis, warning us about different properties across the state that have been potential subjects for fraudulent transfers. We've got some litigation at the firm right now where we're actually representing some victims in litigation to try to undo those fraudulent deeds. And, the end buyers end up being the victims in this as well, because sometimes they lose the property. Hopefully, most of them have title insurance, so they're able to at least recoup and from that perspective. But it's becoming a real problem, and we're seeing it a lot. A lot of people, we've noticed the properties are usually owned by individual names. Mm-hmm. So you'll have people who bought some land years ago, and they've just kind of held on to it as an investment, and then they haven't really done anything with it. They don't monitor it in any way. Right. And these fraudsters are really keen on picking up on those properties and then they basically fake the identity
Right.
of these people. So I've seen some different variations of it. I have one case where it was a completely different person who had a fake ID that they used to execute the fraudulent deed. We had another one that we caught before it closed where these guys had basically stolen the real owner's identity. They had a copy of his New York driver's license. They had his social security number.
Wow.
And we caught it because they kept saying that they were going to be signing here in Florida, but then they were saying that they were in California. So I sent them the documents to sign with a FedEx label. And then I used the tracking information to see that they had signed those documents out in California and dropped the package there using a fake Florida notary stamp. So we were able to prevent that transfer. But a lot of them do seem to be people who just held on to property for years and years in their individual names as investments.
Yeah.
And then they're falling victim to this.
Wow. So you're playing part-time private investigator, it seems.
Yes.
Trying to piece these things together, right?
Yeah, and we have to be careful. I mean, I can't stress enough how important it is to have title insurance. One of my clients is an investor, and they were the end buyers. So they ended up being the victims of this. The real owner came forward, and luckily they were just able to get their title insurance payout and move on. So, it's important to do these closings the right way, get title insurance so that you're protected if things like this happen.
Yeah, absolutely. If you just joined us, we're talking with Melissa Champagne. She's representing Frank Charles Miranda Law right here in Tampa. Title company as well. Stephanie Rosario over there works the title agency, works the title agent side. You've seen her, heard her on the show before. Frank Miranda, attorney Frank Miranda has been, on the program before, well-respected attorney group. Frank Charles Miranda Law, FCMlaw.com, and Melissa's in studio with me. I'm your host, Brandon Rhymes. And I was jotting down a couple notes. Like, one of the things for these folks that are defrauded, I remember there's a real estate fund that's set aside, but I think that's mostly for if it's something that the realtor did as kind of like an error on their side. So I'm not sure if there's a fund set up. That would be something, to look into, or hopefully that our legislature maybe can have because it seems like this is a growing, trending issue. And I also remember the gentleman's name that we had on the program, Matthew Cox. He was with American Greed. They did a TV show with him, and other TV, segment shows picked him up. But the FBI's most wanted list, $32 million in fraud right here in Ybor City, some years ago, and now he's doing, TV commercials for, some of the title, company. I don't want to say their name as far as the kind of like the LifeLock type stuff, but yeah, it's a growing area. It's interesting too because there's a lot of fraud. There's a lot of, from what I see, nefarious activities. Also, that borderline fraud, but maybe it's still a little bit in the gray area where it's hard to prove. And I see this because I come in as a listing agent talking to sellers who had a listing agent prior, or maybe they were trying to deal with one of these hedge fund investors. And sometimes the actions that these companies take, maybe it's showing lower comps to a seller who may not know otherwise, and saying, maybe the proverbial, the old lady or whatnot, the grandma that's kind of widowed or whatnot, and here's your comps, but they're really low. And by the way, I got an investor offer for you. Aren't you happy? Look at this investor offer. I just got this. Cool. Get them excited, and then hopefully have them sell to that investor who's probably in the pocket of the realtor. I see a lot of these different types of scams out there. Yeah,
it is. And I mean, there's some basic things you can do. It, from the buyer side, we talked about, purchasing with title insurance, so you're protected that way. If you own land, or even I have one case where it was a rental property. She just hadn't had a tenant in there for a few years.
Yep.
But one thing you can do, like I said, I do see a lot of them are people who own in their individual names.
Right.
So if you could set up an LLC, transfer your investment properties into that LLC, and when you do go to sell, a good title company is going to want documentation for that limited liability company. So it's a little bit more difficult to commit the fraud if you kind of set up your ownership of these investments the correct way. So that's another important thing I think that people who own the properties can do to protect themselves.
Yeah, LLCs are great also for splitting up ownership interest in the properties. That way, if you had 2 or 3 people went in to invest in a property, I love to play for folks to buy duplexes, triplex quads, because you can still get that owner-occupied loan up to like 95, or if you're a veteran, 100%, you still get that 100% financing, and then turn around and live in it for 3 or 4 years, sell it, then do it again, rent it out. So you live in one side, you rent out the other sides, obviously. If you got a triplex, you're renting two if you got a quad. But I love that play of real estate right now just because of, it's still a safe place for people to put money and try, to maybe stave off a little bit of inflation out there.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just got to be smart about it.
Yeah, exactly. You got to buy right. That's what they say in real estate. You make your money on the buy side. And I had some notes here, too. I wanted to touch on the, quiet title actions. What are those used for?
The main thing that they're used for is if you purchase property at a tax deed auction. So, you don't pay your property taxes in Florida, county auctions off your property, wipes out all the liens on the property, including mortgages. The only thing it doesn't wipe out is code violations. So that's a great opportunity for investors if you've got the cash to buy those properties.
Yeah.
But you do have to turn around and plan on doing a quiet title action, which basically just clears title, confirms that all the proper parties were noticed before the tax deed auction, and it gives you marketable title so you can turn around and resell the property that you bought.
Let's go through that a little bit slower too. So when you talk about a quiet title action, the owner of the property hasn't paid taxes 1 year. Okay, you might get away with that. 2 years, okay, you're getting close to some trouble here. Is 3 the magic number that you have to be deficient or have that deficiency?
So the way it works is once the property taxes are delinquent, they sell, the county sells tax certificates. Right? And then, these investors purchase the tax certificates for pennies on the dollar. They have 2 years after that. So 2 years after the taxes become delinquent
taxes.
Then the owner of the tax certificate can apply for a tax deed auction.
Okay.
But the purchaser of the tax certificate has to make that application.
Okay.
So, I have seen cases where people owe 5-6 years worth of taxes and nobody's ever applied for the auction.
Wow.
And I've seen other ones where they're right on that 2 year mark where they're applying.
So 2 years is kind of like when you could start that action.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting because I've come across that over the years. I didn't know if there was a certain number, but that's very helpful, Melissa. That's great. And then disputes with purchase and sale agreements. We see that. Oh, I'm going to keep the escrow. The day went by and it's a hard money now. What do you see? What's mostly the problem with those types of agreements?
So, I think it's really important to read the language of the contract. Ultimately, it's a contract dispute.
Right.
And so a lot of times, sellers have received bad advice and they're not really obligated to give the deposit back. So, I think it's important to have an attorney read through the contract and look at the language in the contract to try to determine, and if you're on the buyer side, make sure that, you've got a good real estate agent who's, if they get you, for example, if you need an extension because your loan's not closing,
right.
You want to make sure you extend that financing contingency period as well.
Good point.
To protect yourself. So, and then another thing just to be aware of too is that there is a clause in those contracts that require you to try to mediate any dispute over the deposit before you just go straight to litigation. So, and that can get expensive.
It does. And,
typically, it's a lot of things to take into consideration.
Yeah, and you have a $10,000 escrow deposit, for example, and then, two sides dig in, and, it's about principal, right? How many times have you heard that, right, in your career? I was like, okay, well, principal gets expensive after a while, when you think about it. So if you make an offer, hey, look, let's split this thing 50-50 and move on, or 60-40, because I feel, that's typically, my advice in those situations, unless it's a glaring, hey, they definitely went over. They didn't give notice. They had there's some gray areas in different places too where people can claim, that wasn't fully disclosed. These things of that nature. But yeah, disclose. That's the rule in real estate, right?
Right. It is.
Yeah.
Yes.
So then I'll save you from coming back on you. There was an interesting story in the news this morning. I wanted to play a quick clip. I don't know how involved you are with social media, but that TikTok video or that TikTok app is being sued now. I just want to play a quick clip, and I know it's probably outside of your scope, whatever. But quick clip here.
This is a very disturbing story. 2 sets of parents have filed a lawsuit against TikTok after their daughters, who were ages 8 and 9, died after allegedly trying to perform what's called the blackout challenge. We don't want to spread too much information about this challenge, but it's one where people are told to share videos of essentially strangling themselves until they lose consciousness.
Now, what are the parents claiming in the lawsuit?
The lawsuit mainly takes issue with the way TikTok is set up and say it entices young users to become addicted and then promotes content that can convince them to harm themselves. The parents allege that TikTok doesn't have warnings that are good enough to deter young users or inform their parents about the addictive nature of the app or these potentially deadly challenges. What's interesting here is that the lawsuit goes after the design of TikTok because they say it promotes this type of dangerous content.
So anyways, that's a longer clip. It goes on a little bit longer, but it's kind of interesting, how in this society too, that we're taking, blame and putting it on the app instead of the kids actually doing the dumb deed of, strangling each other, seeing if they can black out, filming it and then sharing it. What's your take on that? Or do you have one on TikTok?
I think it's an interesting issue. And I know that it's come up with like Instagram and stuff too, trying to put some responsibility on these social media platforms.
Right.
For their access to young users and the content that's available to young users. And I understand what they're talking about, the addictive nature of TikTok. I mean, I know there's a lot of studies out there that
right.
those quick, short videos, they do become very addictive. I've got kids and I can confirm that. So it's an interesting balance, though, between, how much responsibility goes on the parent.
Right.
So it's well known that TikTok is not, there's all sorts of crazy content out there on TikTok.
Right.
So how much responsibility needs to be on the parents for letting those apps be downloaded in the first place?
Right.
But on the other hand, I think that, there probably do need to be some better disclaimers from the apps to begin with. So it's an interesting balance. And I know that there was an issue with YouTube back a while too, where there was some sort of challenge, that was filtering through on like YouTube videos and stuff for kids. I don't know if you remember that. So I think until there's some sort of like better, maybe federal oversight or legislation for these social media platforms, I'm not sure how much leg a lot of these parents really have to stand on legally.
Right.
But it's certainly an interesting issue.
It'll be interesting to see if there's any precedent set in that, hey, you knew this application was very, whatever they're claiming. I don't know the detail. I haven't studied it too much, but it'll be interesting to see. And then, and they say a lot of the tech guys, the tech billionaires don't let their children play with these, phones and things of that nature. Let's take a quick break. We'll come back. Can you hang over for another segment with us, Melissa? We're going to do one more segment with Melissa Champagne, real estate attorney, FCM Law. Check them out online, fcmlaw.com. And we'll be right back. More with Melissa Champagne here on the Consumer Quarterback Show, consumerqb.com.
Thanks for listening to my daddy's show. Please make sure to send him all of your real estate deals and subscribe to the Consumer Quarterback Show podcast on iTunes and Spotify, or check out our YouTube channel. Have a blessed day.
To get in touch with Brandon, call 813-917-1894. Online at consumerqb.com.
Hey, Brandon Rhymes here, Consumer Quarterback Show, in studio with Martin Gramatica, that is, former Tampa Bay Buccaneer Super Bowl winner. Lifeguard Imaging, lifeguardimaging.com, saving lives through early detection.
Thanks for having me, Brandon. Yes, that's what we're doing at Lifeguard Imaging. You come in asymptomatic, and that's what we do. You're being proactive. You're coming in. We do a scan from the neck to the pelvis. It's a full body scan. It's a 3D image of every organ, and that's where 90% of the deadliest cancers are, in our mid region. So we can see everything. But for your listeners, we have a real good special. We have a $599 value, absolutely complimentary. They can come in for a coronary artery scan, which will give you their calcium score, 100% complimentary for your people.
Very cool. Hey, take them up on that offer, 813-917-1894. Call or text, complimentary scan, 813-917-1894, and check them out online, lifeguardimaging.com.
Dennis Prager here for Brandon and Lindsay Rhymes, owners of the Platinum MVP team at Keller Williams. Buying, selling, investing in real estate, their nationwide Keller Williams network makes them the best team to work with. Sellers, have your property featured live on air, creating multiple offers. Buyers, leverage a unique system that gets your offer accepted, never overlooked. Call or text 813-750-0550, 813-750-0550, or consumerqb.com.
Have you desired more income and more freedom in your life? Now is your time. Keller Williams Realty has just launched our own real estate school, and you can get licensed for free. I'm Brandon Rhymes, host of the Consumer Quarterback Show, owner of the Platinum MVP team at Keller Williams Realty. And for the first 3 people who reach out, I will personally coach you. 813-917-1894. Call or text 813-917-1894. ConsumerQB.com. ConsumerQB.com.
You're listening to The Consumer Quarterback, Brandon Rhymes. Online at consumerqb.com. Brandon is Tampa Bay's #1 consumer advocate for real estate and financial advice. Call Brandon today at 813-917-1894.
All right, welcome back. Thanks for sticking with us. Brandon Rhymes here. I'm your host of the Consumer Quarterback Show. We like to feature our real estate listings live on air, and we help our sellers profit more and sell faster by utilizing our innovations with radio, TV, and internet marketing, getting that maximum exposure for our listings. 2803 Safe Harbor Drive in Tampa is another $1 million property from the Platinum MVP team right here in beautiful Tampa Bay, close to Carrollwood area. Safe Harbor Drive is a 5,253 square foot home. Got 5 bathrooms, gorgeous estate style home, and it's the Estates at White Trout Lake. Spiral staircase to the second floor, large master suite, granite countertops, new appliances, heated pool and spa, and you got a large fenced in corner lot in a gated community at 2803 Safe Harbor Drive in Tampa. And you can see all of our real estate listings at platinummvpteam.kw.com. All right, so back in studio, we got attorney Melissa Champagne here representing Frank Charles Miranda Law. And one thing I wanted to get to also, Melissa, was this landlord-tenant law. There's a lot of different scenarios that come up with, the tenant, the person paying the rent versus the landlord, and those different scenarios. What's kind of a common question maybe that you get, or a scenario that you see come up from time to time?
I've seen it come up a couple of times lately where people purchase properties, and the tenants are in there, and the tenants are supposed to, move out within a couple of weeks after closing.
Right.
And then they don't move out.
Uh-oh.
And the buyers, don't realize that, well, now you're the landlord. You have to file an eviction, right?
Yeah. So you inherited that problem,
right,
so to speak.
Right. So that's I've seen come up lately. I always try to caution people when they go under contract with a tenant-occupied property.
Right.
If it's possible, it's always a better idea to have those tenants out before closing.
Right.
And then another question I have that comes up is, if you have an oral lease, so like a month-to-month lease with somebody, every month when they make that rent payment to you as the landlord, that's the start of a new tenancy period. And in order to terminate that, you have to give a very specific notice 15 days before the rent's due, before you can even try to file an eviction action. So that's something else a lot of people don't realize is just because you don't have a written lease doesn't mean you don't have to still give notice and terminate the tenancy properly before you can file that eviction action in court.
Because there's still an implied lease at that time.
Right.
Based on if you had a 1-year lease in place and then you said, we'll just roll it month to month. Mm-hmm. Every month you accept that check, you're implying that, hey, we still have these same terms in effect. They're just more verbal now.
Right. And same thing if you want to raise the rent. I know that's an issue right now.
Big time.
Rent prices are going up. People may be thinking that, hey, I can get a little bit more for this property. You do have to still give that 15 days notice before the next rent payment is due, because essentially what you're doing is you're terminating the current, lease, month-to-month lease at this rate, and you're proposing a new, rate, a new lease at the higher rate. So you can't just inform them, out of the blue, hey, rent's going up. You got to make sure you send written notice, do everything properly.
Sure. And a good rule of thumb in any business, real estate, contracting, whatever it is get it in writing.
Right. Absolutely.
And if you have a verbal conversation, hey, just wanted to send you that follow-up email to our conversation at 3:30 today where we said this, this, and this. Mm-hmm. That's some of the lessons you learn in real estate after, about 15 years in the business, Yeah,
and if you do have to send formal notice to your tenants, there's specific forms, especially like if they don't pay rent.
Right.
You have to send a very specific 3-day notice before you can file an eviction. So, it's important to make sure you're sending the correct notices under law too. Florida's laws are pretty landlord favorable,
right?
But there's still certain little procedural issues where you don't want to get all the way to an eviction case and then have it kicked back.
Right, exactly. Yeah, if you miss one formal part of that, okay, got to reset. Now you're talking about, maybe weeks or whatever. So, hey, Melissa, thank you so much. Appreciate you coming in. Awesome.
Absolutely.
Check them out online, fcmlaw.com. They can handle real estate closings. They are litigators, real estate attorneys here in Tampa Bay. You've heard Frank and Stephanie on the program as well. Coming back, Brandon Faust, Mold Solutions USA. Brandon Faust with Mold Solutions USA. We'll be right back after the short break.
This is Chris Voss, former FBI lead hostage negotiator and owner of the Black Swan Group, and you're listening to Consumer Quarterback Show hosted by my friend Brandon Rhymes.
To get in touch with Brandon, call 813-917-1894. Online at consumerqb.com.
All right, just to verify that Brandon Faust is right up on that microphone. Perfect. All right, everyone, please stand by.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You're listening to the consumer quarterback, Brandon Rhymes, cutting through your typical media nonsense and offering you a rational and unbiased perspective on current events and life in Tampa Bay. Online at consumerqb.com.
All right, welcome back. Thanks for spending some time with us here on the Consumer Quarterback Show. We greatly appreciate it. Had an uptick in calls last week. Folks reaching out to the program, to the hotline, 813-917-1894. Open phone line, 813-917-1894. Call or text any questions or concerns you have. And want to remind you, we've got 80 different categories of consumer advocate content and advice. We have great attorneys associated with the program, all types of wonderful home service providers, CPAs, financial advisors, so many different ways that we can help you save a lot of time and money when it comes to your buying decisions here in Tampa Bay. ConsumerQB.com. And we'd like to feature our real estate listings live on air, help our sellers profit more and sell faster utilizing our show. We've got a property at 110 Adderley Street in Tampa, 110 Adderley Street in Tampa. This is in the historic area close to downtown. Beautiful property. It's about 1,300 square feet, just shy of 1,300 square feet, 3 bedrooms, 1 bath. Got a double lot as well in an opportunity zone, so an opportunity to develop and build next door. Located in historic Tampa Heights, detached workshop, garage, kitchen, and has granite countertops, solid wood cabinets, stainless steel appliances, no HOA or CDD. So that's a great opportunity to own real estate right here in beautiful Tampa Bay, 110 West Adderley Street in Tampa. And we got a lot of vacant land as well, 1804 East Spencer Street. This is a property that we've got in Plant City. Build your dream home on this blank canvas of beautiful land in Plant City that is over in East Hillsborough County. 1.15 acre. You got a water source that's already connected, no HOA as well, and perfectly positioned between Tampa Bay and Orlando Metro, one of the hottest metros in all of Tampa Bay, right there in the Plant City area, and already has a 30 by 20 foot slab pipe for plumbing, new well, and electric pole. Build your dream home at 1804 East Spencer Street in Plant City, and you can see all of our listings at platinummvpteam.kw.com.
Buy dirt, find one you can't live
And you can buy
without.
dirt. Got a lot of vacant land available. Brandon Faust back in the house. Welcome back, sir.
Yes, thank you for having me. Always a good time with B Rhymes.
Yes, sir. All right, good stuff. So let's talk about, moldsolutionsusa.com is the website, by the way. We're going to talk about mold in the real estate properties and also in your body. You had mentioned prior to show you had a mycotoxin profile.
That's exactly right. So Great Plains Laboratory, that's one of the labs that does it, but mold releases a gas, a poisonous gas. And it's not every single mold, but a lot of them do. There's 100,000 different types of molds in terms of the number of species. In the U.S., you'll see about 50,000 of them. And really, there's about 40 or so that we see on a daily basis, and those can release a particularly nasty gas. And it can be toxic for the individual. So I was not feeling great in 2019. I thought it might have been coming from, going into moldy homes and being exposed in that manner. I had done air samples in my own master bedroom and my own home, and everything seemed like it was good. And I thought, okay, well, let's see what's going on. Let's do this mycotoxin test. So it's you send the sample back into the laboratory, Great Plains Laboratory, and I was pretty surprised when mine came back off the charts. So I was high in one particular type of mycotoxin. Myco is the Greek word for fungus, right?
Okay.
So it's the toxic gas from a fungus. So I was high in one of them. It was ochratoxin A, and I was at basically 14.57, where high would have been 4 to 20. And then there was another one called mycophenolic acid, and high was 5 to 50, and I was at 1,215.
Wow.
So that was produced by penicillium, right? So I was pretty shocked by that number. And then there was another mold called fusarium, where I was really high on that particular type of mycotoxin, where high was 5 to 10, and I was at 20. So
double the top number.
Yeah, I was in one of them. Obviously, it was like off the charts.
Yeah.
High was 5 to 50, and I was at 1,200. And
Is that a blood test?
That's a urine sample.
A urine sample.
Yeah.
Wow. So it's
no question about it. It's a legitimate test. So, and it brings me to the point of fogging, because up until that point, I was with a company where we were really relying on the fog as a primary methodology for getting rid of mold in the home. And the truth is it does drop the levels in terms of the airborne spore count, but it doesn't necessarily get to the source.
Okay.
And that was why there was such a strong pivot for me after I saw this, because I saw the mycotoxin test, and because the air sample said it was clean, I thought it was from other people's homes. Well, fast forward 6 months later, my AC overflows, and I had the luxury vinyl in my home, continuous flooring, and it was like about one half of the home that got impacted, but you have to remove all the flooring.
Yep.
So I get to the my master bedroom, pop the baseboard, and sure enough, I'm looking at a toxic mold right behind that baseboard.
Wow.
And then I opened up that wall, and it was about 2 feet up of Aspergillus penicillium. So what was the one that was high? Penicillium. It was a gas from penicillium that was just out the roof. Wow. So I thought I was in a safe zone, and in actual fact, I was in a biological warfare zone.
Yeah.
And it was completely impacting my health. I had a pain in my chest that wouldn't go away for months. I was like popping Spanish black radish like it was candy. I was getting a fever every month. So it really was eye-opening when 3 weeks after I did the full mycotoxin treatment for my master bedroom, and also then retreated my house.
Yep.
Within 3 weeks, all those symptoms went away. Right,
Yeah.
the pain in my chest went away. The headaches that I was getting, the fevers, and then you start looking into like what it's linked to in terms of like this is from the lab. This is not my opinion, right? But it shows that it can lead to all kinds of issues. We're talking about Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, It basically can impact the neurological system. And part of the reason being is a mycotoxin is fatty in substance. So it has a natural affinity to the most fatty part of the body, which is the brain. So then it can then impact the neurological system and the way that the body communicates to, the brain communicates to the rest of the body.
Fascinating. Wow. If you just joined us, we're talking with Brandon Faust here on the Consumer Quarterback Show. MoldSolutionsUSA.com is his website, MoldSolutionsUSA.com. He's on Instagram as well. You can find him there. And wow, that is fascinating. That's interesting because I believe a lot of people are in this position, but they don't really know that they are.
Absolutely. I mean, I didn't. I was a professional mold guy.
Right.
Right. And I didn't know that I had mold behind the walls.
Yeah.
Right. I didn't know that. And I also didn't really fully understand the impact that the toxic gas could have on, my physical well-being. I had a hunch, so fortunately I did this test with Great Plains Laboratory and found out, yes, there is an issue.
Yeah.
But it's so crucial to actually get to the source of it.
Yeah.
Right. And the mold, that gas that I was super high in, the mycophenolinic acid, right? Like this is what some of the stuff that it can lead to, increase the risk of opportunistic infections such as candida. It also says that it's associated with miscarriage and congenital malformations when the woman is exposed during pregnancy. So this is like no joke. This is the type of thing that you really don't want to miss. Right? You don't want to not find out about it. You want to know. And there's different testing. Like I talked about the air samples.
Yes.
Well, the air samples didn't show. So, you might want to look into doing an actual mycotoxin test with the home. And there are some inspectors in the area that do the actual mycotoxin testing. They do the dust samples.
Right.
Or, there's a new sampling system from Air Answers that you leave in the home for 5 days. And it was developed for COVID-19, but it also turned out that it picked up mycotoxins as well.
Wow.
So there's some of the inspectors that are also using that sampling system.
And there's also, Brandon, and I imagine it spreads pretty fast, so that's something to be careful of, be cautious of. It spreads very quickly. But there's also systems that you can add on to your home air conditioning system, your HVAC system, and the air handler. There's some. Are you still working with those types of?
Of course, yeah. The whole home dehumidifiers, I think, are a really smart move these days. You want to keep those humidity levels below 60, but there's also UV lights. I would put that UV light close to the blower wheel because it helps. Like once that blower wheel stops, it has enough constant UV on that blower wheel to prevent mold from growing on the actual fins of the blower wheel where you see it often.
Yep.
And the other one is having a purifying device in the actual plenum where the hot air meets that cold air. It's a very likely place to find growth because of that continual condensation. It's almost like a petri dish, know, and you got that porous fiber, that ductboard, so mold will start growing there. You talked about it growing quickly.
Right.
This is an example. So this was my neighbor's yard. So the day before, there was nothing there. The next day, there you have mushrooms.
Wow.
Right? How quick does it take? It's one day.
I see it pop up. Some of those pop up in my yard from time to time.
Right. It's like with less than 24 hours, you can have growth. So
it's amazing.
And that's what mold is. It's a fungus, just like a mushroom. So it can happen overnight. And then when it gets into places that you're not necessarily seeing it, this, I don't think our consumers can see this, but this is really for you. This is behind the walls.
Right.
Right. Where you have, imagine that's what you're breathing in. It's releasing this gas. It's getting through the nooks and crannies and the crevices.
Yep.
And it's basically hidden. Right. And they don't know about it. So if people are experiencing non-optimum physical conditions that seem to be, they don't have an explanation for it, it's weird,
right,
etc., they really should look into it. The place I was just at, the guy had, extreme depression, and fortunate for him, he found a psychiatrist that takes a holistic approach and is doing all kinds of blood testing, DNA testing, etc., etc. So she said, look, you need to get a mycotoxin test done in your home. Because it looked immaculate, but sure enough, they did the mycotoxin test, and it was off the charts for mycotoxins.
Man, that's important. reach out to the show hotline. We'd love to put you in touch with Brandon Faust, Mold Solutions USA, 813-917-1894. You can call or text the word mold to 813-917-1894 and consumerqb.com, or go to his website directly, moldsolutionsusa.com. You can find him online there. And Brandon, thanks for coming in. What's your social media?
Mold Solutions USA. It's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. On Facebook, on Instagram. They can always call the office as well. We definitely love talking to people, and we'll do consults for them.
Perfect.
We're on Google My Business, Mold Solutions USA.
Mold Solutions USA, Brandon Faust, longtime friend of the program. And that mold is a silent killer, so you got to catch it early and make sure you get it before it spreads. So thanks a lot. Appreciate those tips.
Yeah, you got it.
That's interesting stuff with the mycotoxins, man. Wow.
Yeah, mycotoxins.
All right, taking a quick break here. Coming back with Shane Socash. He's the owner of David Reynolds Jewelry and Coin here on the Consumer Quarterback Show, located right there in Pinellas County. And our feel-good story of the day coming up as well. Find out about this off-duty Pinellas deputy that rescues 2 kids from a rip current. We'll be right back here on the Consumer Quarterback Show, consumerqb.com.
Hey, I'm Ken Shamrock, and you're here with Consumer Quarterback Show. And I say, Brandon Rhymes, knock out your competition.
To get in touch with Brandon, call 813-917-1894. Online at consumerqb.com.
Hey, Brandon Rhymes here. We are looking for real estate investors. We've got a new relationship bringing us a tremendous amount of off-market real estate investment opportunities. So text the word investor to our hotline, 813-750-0550. Off-market real estate investment opportunities. Text investor to 813-750-0550. Brandon Rhymes here, Platinum MVP team at Keller Williams Realty, looking for real estate investors. Send us a text.
Selling commercial or residential property? Don't leave money on the table. List with the Platinum MVP team at Keller Williams Realty. I'm Brandon Rhymes. Reach me at 813-670-7372 or platinummvpteam.com.
Hey, Brandon Rhymes here for Cleaning Commandos here on the Consumer Quarterback Show. Cleaning Commandos are hiring, and they're offering competitive wages, flexible hours, relaxed atmosphere, and a sign-on bonus. Reach out if you'd like a career with the Cleaning Commandos here in Tampa Bay. Info at cleaningcommandosllc.com or call 813-750-0550, 813-750-0550. Cleaning Commandos, Consumer Quarterback Show.
You're listening to The Consumer Quarterback, Brandon Rhymes, online at consumerqb.com. Brandon is Tampa Bay's #1 consumer advocate for real estate and financial advice. Call Brandon today at 813-917-1894.
And we're back. Brandon Rhymes here. Consumer Quarterback Show powered by the Platinum MVP team at Keller Williams Realty, always helping you win in any marketplace, as we say. And we like to feature our listings here live on air. And we got a hot commercial property here at 507 South Prospect Avenue in Clearwater. This is a great opportunity to own your own office building. Beautiful property, 12 rooms. You got 2 bathrooms, and it's right off of Gulf to Bay in Clearwater. It's 507 South Prospect Avenue, 2,624 square feet. 12 rooms. You got 2 stories of office space for rental opportunity, commercial office building near downtown Clearwater, and right off of Gulf to Bay, close to downtown Clearwater, close to the beaches as well. You got a newer roof and HVACs available at 507 South Prospect Avenue in Clearwater, and you can see all of our real estate listings at platinummvpteam.kw.com.
Somewhere sunny and 75. Tell me something good.
All right, our feel-good story of the day. Off-duty deputy rescues 2 kids from rip current. This is over at the Anclote Key. And the Johnsons were spending the afternoon boating tubing when Amanda says she suddenly found herself in one of the most terrifying moments any parent could experience. A rip current grabbed both of her boys. She says, quote, "They were in eye shot," Amanda said. "I could see them, and I just took off down the island and went waist deep. I knew I couldn't get to them. But in that helpless moment of fear, Amanda said she had hope, knowing that her oldest son had taken swimming lessons." And she says, quote, "I kept seeing one head, and then thinking of the other one was gone. So he went under and was pulling him up," he said, basically sacrificing himself to save his brother. And just as she cried for help, Deputy Anthony LaCourte and his wife were in earshot on their jet skis. And he says, quote, "I was there for a reason, I guess." And within minutes, he had the boys out of the water on their way to safety. What seems like a miracle for the Johnsons witness comes naturally to LaCourte. He is a corrections officer at Pinellas County Jail. And he says his willingness to help goes even deeper than that, and that he's also a father. And the first thing you hear when somebody's voice is that you know they needed help. So a pretty good story right there out of Pinellas County deputy helping rescue the two boys. So that's a feel-good story of the day. Be careful for those rip currents out there. If you ever get caught up in one, they say swim like vertical or perpendicular to the beach, right? So you're not going against the current, you're going laterally against the beach. That way you kind of come out of that. So, going to the phone lines here. We got Shane Socash back on the show. David Reynolds, Jewelry and Coin. Hey, Shane.
Hey, Brandon. It's nice to be back.
Yes, sir. Great day here in Tampa Bay. And, what are you seeing down there, man? How things going?
Staying busy. Lots of selling bullion, services on jewelry, making jewelry, repairing jewelry, sizing jewelry, all that type of thing.
Yeah, selling. So you're selling bullion, and when I think a lot of times too, when people look at, they say, "Hey, look, I got a 401k, or I've got some type of retirement," and they say, "Yeah, maybe I should buy gold," but they don't know where to start in a lot of cases.
We do it, yeah. Physical gold right here in our store. You take possession of it. It's not something that's on paper. It's something you own, and we make it pretty simple.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And then you also buy gold too.
Of course, yeah. So when it's time to turn around and you no longer need it, it's done right by you, or for whatever reason, it's time to sell it. You basically come back in and sell it to us. Been here 22 years personally, and it's something we've always done. The store's been here since 71. So. Wow,
1971. That's some long tenure too. You don't see that kind of tenure much anymore.
Yeah, it's pretty unusual, to have someone. We've been on Central Avenue since 71, in this location since 81.
Wow, Central Avenue right there, beautiful Pinellas County. Talking with Shane Socash. He's the owner of David Reynolds Jewelry and Coin. And talk a little bit about the jewelry side. I know you got the gemologists on staff. You can really create unique pieces, creative pieces for folks as well on the jewelry side.
Yeah, we've had a pretty brisk uptick in just servicing jewelry. Even now, we're a little slower. It's the summertime, but people are finding us. We've got a fantastic reputation. We know what we're doing. We're not always the cheapest, but if you want it done right, it's definitely something we do. So everything from repairs, like if you have a ring and you've outgrown it, you need it sized up, that type of thing, to restorations where the ring's been worn for 20, 30, 40 years and it needs to be restored, it's gotten thin, we take care of that, to custom work. I've been CAD designing, computer designing jewelry this morning as we speak.
Yeah, I love that. The idea of using the computer-aided design to come up with the pieces, to get creative with it, to deliver for your clients. That seems like a pretty unique technology piece.
It is. It definitely makes it nice for the client. They love it. They can see what the piece. There's always this problem time where the client describes to you what they want, and then in the old days we would make it for them, and sometimes there was a disconnect between what they were describing and what they were receiving.
Right.
But now with modern technology, I'm able to design it in the computer and show them photorealistic pictures of what it's going to look like before I actually make the piece, where there's still time to make changes, and it works great. I'm working with a gentleman right now from, I think he's New Hampshire. His family lived here. They had always dealt with us, and he didn't like the local stores up there, so he contacted me. It's like, sure, we can do this long distance. It's just emails and pictures and that type of thing.
Yeah, working over the phone, working over the internet.
Yep.
We do it in real estate all the time. And I want to elaborate on something too. You said, look, we're not always the cheapest. I mean, that's a a challenge that people have. They sometimes go for that cheapest opportunity or option, and we see that in real estate too. I mean, people looking for listing services. Oh, what's your rate? And they want to go there and try to cut rates over the phone before they even meet you to see what you offer and what your specialties are. So it's a challenge, but we've seen it play out over the years too. The cheapest solar company, for example. We had a solar company on our show, and he said, hey, we got beat out by this one company on price, and then sure enough, that company had gone out of business. Left one of these neighbors, a neighbor of mine, like halfway completed. So they had some panels up, some not up. I mean, and that's what you get when you go for the cheapest option.
Yeah. So the people who are not the cheapest are frequently burdened with the task of cleaning up the mess of the companies that are.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. You're burdened with the mess of cleaning up, picking up the pieces for the folks and doing that. And you see that with pool companies too. I remember there were a couple recent pool companies that just went out of business, and very similar situation. You start dropping prices, trying to the old saying is rob Peter to pay Paul, etc. We're talking with Shane Socash here on the Consumer Quarterback Show, longtime friend of the program and owner of David Reynolds Jewelry and Coin, Central Avenue right there in St. Petersburg, Pinellas County, beautiful Pinellas County. And Shane, we talked about inflation. We talked about people, looking for alternative stores of value, and precious metals certainly provide that. There's some options down there that you have for folks if they're in that position. They can come down and talk to you, and you kind of just give them an overview and a consultation.
Absolutely. We do it every day. We do it on the phone. We do it in person. Give them guidance. I've owned the store, or I've been in the store for 22 years. I have good guidance. Sometimes people will come in looking for one type of product, and I'll say, so like what makes you decide that that's the right product? Because I have these products that we've always consistently bought, and they're cheaper and typically a better payoff. Why wouldn't you choose that? And they say, oh, that's a fantastic, I didn't know that. Like reading on the internet didn't tell me that.
Right.
And, a lot of times it has to do with what the online sellers have to sell. And, they'll make that the best product or sound like the best product.
Exactly.
And a lot of times it's not always the best. It might not be bad, but sometimes there are better choices.
Yeah, exactly. And you see that in all types of different places, that commission-based advice that's so prevalent out there.
Yep.
So Shane, you want folks to find you online and on social media? What David Reynolds Jewelry and Coin.com?
Yep, that gets you here. And then, of course, on the corner of Central Avenue and 40th Street, if you wanted to pop in, we will help you out.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Shane. Appreciate you.
Take care. Thank you.
All right. Shane Socash, David Reynolds, Jewelry and Coin, Brandon Faust, Mold Solutions USA, and attorney Melissa Champagne from FCMLaw.com. Another great show. We want to thank you for tuning in, spending some time with us. Greatly appreciate you listening to the program. And please go out there and consider committing a random act of kindness. We'll see you next time right here on the Consumer Quarterback Show, ConsumerQB.com.
You've been listening to The Consumer Quarterback, Brandon Rhymes. Whether it's real estate, consumer, or financial advice, let Brandon call your next play. Call Brandon Rhymes at 813-917-1894. That's 813-917-1894. Online at consumerqb.com. And join us next time for the Consumer Quarterback Show.